Are you happy? Are you deep down satisfied with the person you are, how you're living your life, and the future as it appears today? Do you have a passion? Is there any one thing in your life that is so important that it makes prioritizing everything else simple? If the answer to any of those questions is no, do you have any idea why? Welcome to the Verimour Speaks podcast. I'm your host, Dawn Keegan, co-founder of the dating app Verimour and the nonprofit app Hero Harbor. Happiness, mine and that of others, is something that's always been very important to me. I've devoted my life to understanding how we take the things life throws at us and combine that with our own special gifts to come away with an experience that, while not always perfect, is one we are proud of and allows us the fewest regrets and least amount of heartache. Whether through my personal musings or conversations with guests, the aim here is not to find a one-size-fits-all to-do list of change, but instead a mindset that lessens our fear, reduces judgment of ourselves and others, and frees each individual to build the life that truly represents happiness for them. Thank you for joining us on the Verimour Speaks podcast. I've always worked to provide the most honest, helpful content I could in forms that reach the largest possible audience. And my extreme dislike of greed-driven organizations means I do so without ads or sponsors. But for us to continue improving with better guests and more consistent production quality, we need your help. If you have found any value in what we do and the content provided, please show us a little love by making a contribution directly to the podcast or as a tax-deductible donation on the heroharbor.org website. Thank you again for listening, and please enjoy the show.
Out of suffering have emerged the strongest souls.
Oh, geez. So many.
Yeah, I know. Actually, here's one. Here's one that I think, as a father, and taking their kids out, or if anyway, I was stationed in Jacksonville and Field from '94 to the part of '98, and Dad would come down probably 3-4 times a month on my off days, and we would take a trip wherever, spend a day or two fishing before I had to get back on shift. But we were in the day before, we had hired a guy, and we went out on the Indian River Lagoon, and so we fished that entire area, and we didn't catch a thing. The guy was a real nice guy. Forget his name. No. He showed us places where we wouldn't have to spend money, where we could just go and park and go fish. Like get the causeways and everything. Anyway, so of course Dad didn't bring anything down on the plane. I had all the stuff, with me in the truck, and so we're using all my gear. Now I was using the fly rod, and Dad was using one of my spinning rods, and for some reason I only bought one rod of each, and which was idiotic. Of course, I was young and dumb at the time. Anyway, so I'm out there. I'm not catching anything. So Dad's got the spinning rod, and all of a sudden it just spider webs on him. Gets a big bird's nest. So he's trying to. So I give Dad my fly rod, which I would just learn how to tie a Clouser minnow. So we're using stuff that I tied. He goes back out on the causeway, and he's in about the knee-deep water. I'm back at the truck just trying to unscrew this reel up and getting frustrated. Next thing you know, I hear this, oh my God, and I see a rod. It's a 9-foot 9 weight, and the rod is bent, doubled over. And so he catches his first redfish down there, and using my rod, which as a kid, he would, if I would screw up, he would give, me the good rod, and he would go try to fix, whatever I screwed up. So it was kind of a fun thing in reverse, and I still remember that to this day. It's probably one of my best fishing memories.
Well, isn't that the way it always works? It's like, the person's, not catching. They hand their pole to somebody else, and immediately, they get a bite. I mean, I think that's like an unspoken rule with fish. It's like, it just,
Well, yeah, but the irony was, as a kid, if the reel was messed up, he would just give me his rod. He would fix the one that I screwed up. Where, 20 years later, you reverse the situation where I gave him the good rod and I went to go, fix the screwed up one. So it was kind of, I don't know, it was kind of a nice payback at the time.
Well, good. All right, what you got, Paul?
Well, so I was trying to think of what the best fishing story, and like I said, there's just so many.
You can tell more than one.
I'll just give you a couple quick snippets, but I'd say my best ice fishing memory was, my one of my best friends is he was in the Army during Iraqi freedom,
Mm-hmm.
and we go every year for his birthday at the end of January, and it was just the two of us on a real quiet day, and it was just so peaceful and relaxing. It really opened my eyes to what ice fishing could be. I had so many negative preconceived notions about it, and it's cold and it's boring, and you're just sitting around drinking all day waiting for flags to go up. And
there's nothing wrong with that. Come on.
Yeah, no, honestly, I mean, just the two of us, we had such great conversation. We really we had such a great time bonding, that it didn't matter. We didn't catch a ton of fish, but then you fast forward a few years, and my current wife and I, we bought the house that we're in 3 years ago, and 2 doors down, the house went up for sale, and a Marine bought it, and he's relatively new out into the civilian world again. And I said, well, I'll take you fishing if you want to go. And he said, well, I haven't gone in years, and I'd really like it. And I took him out to one of the local lakes, and even though he didn't catch any fish that day, he comes over and he talks to me, and he's like, hey, I want to go fishing with you again. And it was really good to see, a fellow Marine that was struggling, in a really bad way, very similar to where I was, back in 2010. It was rock bottom for me. I was a single parent, and I gave up, and tried to kill myself. And it's all too common, with us.
And here's, for me, I mean, this is a large part of it, and why I cannot wait for us to get our nonprofit status, so that because it requires that for me to actually start being able to take part in the out processing classes and things like that. I was, like I said, I got out in 93, my last year was in Okinawa. I went through those classes just like everybody else does. Now, back then we didn't have all the tech and the phones and all that stuff. This is the Stone Ages. But the whole time I'm sitting there thinking, just give me my damn civvies already. I don't need this crap. I'm a Marine. What the hell? I was a civilian before. It's nothing. Been there, done that. I can do this. But what we don't realize is that you get out, and all of a sudden you have this massive identity crisis. It's that, you go from having a uniform where it doesn't have to be your branch. It doesn't even have to be your country, but you have something in common. The rules might be a little different, whatever, but you have something in common, and you have a camaraderie of some sort. And all of a sudden you take that off, and you look like everyone else, but you're not like everyone else. Right. And we don't, and so all of a sudden, and again, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier with, people not understanding. Another common thread is the idea of us being unemployable, or at the very least, finding civilian jobs very challenging because many of us are problem solvers. We are, again, overachievers, whatever it is. Either way, the civilian world is looking at us and expecting us to act like everyone else. And, we have a different work ethic. We have a different way of doing things. And it's not that we can't function in that environment, because many men and women successfully do, but it sometimes takes time to figure out what your place is, what your next step is. And I was married to a Marine at the time when I first got out, but he'd been out for a little bit of time, and he got out right before we got married and right before I went to Okinawa. So he'd been out for about a year when I got back. But he didn't know how to help me. He didn't know, because we just didn't know. You're not prepared for that. You're just not prepared. And in my case, I've told this story numerous times. In my case, I went to the VA because I was depressed for the first time ever, and this was foreign to me. It's like, I don't like this. This needs to go away. So I go and they give me meds, which I'm high energy. I've always been high energy. I'm almost 53, and I've been 90 to nothing for 53 years. They give me these meds, shoves me into mania. They're like, oh, you're bipolar for 16 years. I shoved their crappy meds down my throat. The very last time before I got serious and said, pardon my French, fuck y'all, I'm not taking this stuff anymore. I had gone out and purchased a gun, bullets, safety off, pointed at my head, and luckily I got past that. But, so sometimes the help you get is even worse than no help at all. And yeah, so it's that we aren't prepared for that identity crisis, because it's not something that we think we have this, and we don't. We have a bad habit of not going out and asking for help. So anyway, so I love that story, and that's
No, personally, I still struggle on a daily basis with that identity crisis. Like it's how I define myself, because
right. Yes.
when I I was a hard charger. I graduated high school in 3 years. I went right in the Marines, and I knew what my purpose was.
Mm-hmm.
My purpose was to serve my country, to do my job, and I was good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got back into the civilian world, and I had a hard time holding down a job, and
yeah.
I'd get angry, I'd get depressed, and I really just I didn't understand why I couldn't adjust. And then things, it's my physical limitations started to build from my service. And then, you tack on the physical limitations with the mental limitations, and really self-defeating.
Yeah. And this is another thing, is we expect so much more of ourselves than we expect of anyone else. We're Marines, we're soldiers, we're whatever we are, and we should be able to do this. And so we hear the civilian world basically saying, you don't belong here. They may not actually say that, but it's just like we don't feel like we belong, but we expect so much of ourselves. And yeah, so it's a constant thing. And I'm the same way. I love my life. It's exactly what I've chosen. But if you listen to episode 8, and if you listen to the one that comes tomorrow, and there's been a couple others where I say very plainly, I still have my my dark days, and I think a lot of it is because we expect so much of ourselves, and we don't and there's yes, I get it, and again, that's why I do what I do, and because but I love, this is the other thing. What happened?
Okay, we're back on.
Yeah,
I lost contact. Yeah, I sliced my finger. I had to go in the bathroom and get a Band-Aid. So.
Good God.
Oh, super glue, brother. Super glue.
Yeah.
It works great.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Right. Sorry about that.
They actually did that. I got bit by a dog recently, and they super glued my lip. anyway, but what the other thing I was thinking about when you were talking about, fishing with that Marine is that, and this is again another why Hero Harbor will work, because you helped him and you got something from that. You felt better, and this is the thing. It's I keep saying whether you need a shoulder or whether you're offering your shoulder, because the thing is, and I've posted in the past thing, I said, that shoulder or that hand that you offer may help you more than it helped them. We get such a great feeling from that service, from that, that sense of purpose, and that's it. We just have to get through, that time, and then just repeat. Okay, Matt clearly has. Oh, I know what it is. You must have a fan. Okay, you've got a fan because he's smoking, and because it looks like ghosts, yeah, it looks like he's got those phantoms like going all around his trailer, and it's just funny. Anyway,
right.
But yeah, that's the thing. It's like we get, it's not just about what you can get from Hero Harbor in the sense of, or from these conversations, these interactions. It's you may be in a place that you don't feel like you need help, but you can offer it, and again, we get a great feeling from that as well. So it's just there's just really nothing bad about those connections, and like I said, in an environment that is understanding and not out to pickpocket you like Facebook and all the others.
Right, exactly. I mean, to take somebody out, whether it's we're talking about fellow veterans or other heroes that. We're not going to judge. We can listen whether, look, I was in the Navy. I did third time, I did a boots on a ground tour. Most of my time was on the ship. But, you meet people and you talk to people, and regardless of, what dirt we chewed or what batch of sea we were on, it seems like the struggles are the same. I don't know how many times, how many different doctors to the VA and civilian where I got tired of telling my story because I went through, I think, 2012. I think for the first 4 years I had 12 different primary care doctors. Every time I went, and I got tired of telling my story, and it just got so frustrating. But when I was around other veterans, regardless if they're Marine or Army or Coast Guard or Air Force or other, there was no judgment.
Or regardless of conflict.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think that what to provide, whether it's taking an animal fishing or even just getting together and having a cookout somewhere. Hopefully we can get to the point where we can have, various areas and go, what, we're going to be in this area. Let's get a couple guys together, people, I'm not, when I say guys, I mean guys and gals, so don't, I'm not a feminist or, macho dude or whatever the case is, but you guys know what I mean. Where we can go, hey, you know what, I'm going up to see my brother. Hey, man, let's get it, Paul, let's get some guys together and their families, and let's go to a state park and have a cookout, and just whatever the case is, and when I'm down here, people around me here, or we can, get back down to Florida for the winter, and we can do things like that, and whether we're fishing or whether we're just hanging out and providing a space for people to come and feel welcome. I think to me, that would be the ultimate success.
Yeah,
for everything.
You talk about for me, the darkest part or the most challenging part is because I know that we have such an amazing product, and I know we've conceptualized it to such an amazing place. And the handful of people that I've connected with already, the interviews that we've done, it just is so beautiful and so amazing, and I love you guys so much. The knowledge that there's so many more out there hurting that I have not reached yet, and that I haven't been able to help yet. Yes, there is there's a definite satisfaction to these connections, but it's for me, it's not going to be enough until I connect all of these businesses, all of these hero focused causes, and the majority of these men and women. And at some point, we will move out for the purpose of the businesses, so that we can get you in front of as many possible eyeballs as possible. Eventually, we will get to a place where just about anybody will be able to join. The most important thing is there will always be a zero tolerance for hate speech of any kind against police, against military. I mean, because the thing I realized when I first started promoting HH back in November or so, I got slammed by somebody on IG who was one of these the baby killer, military is awful, blah, 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 blah. But I also, so that's the kind of person who would, no matter what their affiliation, that kind of stuff it's like immediately banned, and you just go away and you're never coming back. But I also got crap from, it was a Marine he has every right to be in the app. He called me a pogue. And and I said to him, I said, there are different kinds of pogues. It's like we have, and for anybody who is not Marine Corps, not familiar with the term pogue, it just means basically support staff, admin, just logistics type people, anybody who's not a forward, grunt,
right.
Whatever.
It stands for person other than grunt.
Okay. All right. Okay. So now I learned something else. I was familiar with there you go. That makes perfect sense. Okay. Anyway, and
it's anybody that's not a grunt.
Right. Yeah. And that makes sense. But and as I said, I had the best job in the Marine Corps, because I could, on any given day, I could be sitting behind my computer, writing a story, or I could be out rappelling and force marching and all the things with the guys and going, mucking through the mud and all that kind of stuff. It was awesome. But the thing is, what he wasn't acknowledging is that, I took my passion, my empathy, and I infused my stories with it. And so these men and women, and in particular the guys, especially when I was there was one time in Okinawa, I was out covering something in the NTA. We were hiking, and I was out with a bunch of young guys who were, they were away from home for the first time. They were 6 months away from their girlfriends and everything else. And they were just so excited to be around, a female Marine, and they were asking questions. And I was married at the time. So, they're asking questions about, about relationships and about just, they just wanted some sort of connection. And so, again, I was able to take what, my pogue skills and connect with these guys who wouldn't, through my writing and my photography, ways that, and highlight them in ways that, they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And again, kind of what I do here with the podcast, make them feel special, because they were. And so, but my point is that a Marine, perfectly valid, app, subscriber, was still a jerk. So it doesn't really matter. So my point is, we will get as many people in there as we possibly can, just, maintaining that zero tolerance thing. And I'm not sure how I got off on that bloody rant, but, that's pretty typical. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to take into account too, we have branch rivalries that,
Yeah.
I love to give, sailors shit for, being our taxi service, and
right.
The chair force, and I mean, we do it all in good fun, and I think
most of the time, sometimes it's not, and in this guy's
case,
hey,
look, you guys couldn't get anywhere if we weren't there for you.
Yeah.
Well,
but if you think, I mean, the term pogue is, it's derogatory to anybody that's especially in H&S or something like that. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times it's all in good fun, so anybody that takes it beyond that,
Normally it is. In this guy's case, it was clear that it wasn't, because he kept, coming back. And finally I said, look, I said, because I'm not going to fight with you. I said, I told him, I said, your attitude or the things that you're saying speak much more to who you are than it does to who I am, because you don't know anything about me. I busted my ass. I worked out 3 times a day because I carried the guys, in the sense that, I wanted to make sure that people knew that I wasn't just, I wasn't just a pretty face. I would kick your ass. Just, I love when, talking about the inter-service rivalry. The Air Force loves to say, talk about how we're the smart ones. My dad was in the Air Force, and he says, I wish I'd gone in the Marines. I joined the Marines, but I had a very high ASVAB, and so I love to tell him, it's like, you know what? I could have had your job. I could have had any job I wanted, and I can kick your ass too. So, smoke that. But so something I'd like you to speak to. I have a couple of friends who were Marines first and then became Army later. And I asked one of them not too long ago, I said, what do you identify with most? And he said, because he was 8 years Marine and then 20 years Army. And he says, I tell people I'm a Marine who spent 20 years in the Army. And that just speaks to Marines and how as Tony will say, we're more brainwashed than the others. But
once a Marine, always a Marine.
Oh, absolutely. And but what I was having this conversation with someone else, similar background as far as the services, and it suddenly occurred to me, I understand a lot of people go a lot of people switch to the Army or other branches because there's a lot more opportunity. It's bigger. There's more, there's more jobs available. Getting promoted is a little bit easier. That sort of thing. But it occurred to me, like, my brother was Army, and I thought, I cannot possibly picture myself wearing an Army uniform. I can't imagine how in the world do you go, and this is not a criticism, because whatever you go into, that's kind of, that's your thing. But I can't imagine going from wearing a Marine Corps uniform to going, wearing any other uniform. So how was that for you? I mean, going from Marine Corps blues, sexiest thing ever, to, anything else.
Yeah, no, I mean, the transition was definitely an interesting one, but at the end of the day, I wanted to continue to serve my country. And, I have now more friends from service in the Army than Marine friends.
Right.
But it is nice to still, be able to relate to other Marines,
Mm-hmm.
Oh
yeah.
But yeah, the Army was definitely a lot easier. That's for sure. The standards were a little bit more relaxed.
Right.
You didn't have to work quite as hard.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I was still doing my job and still serving my country, and that's what I loved.
Yeah, every job is needed, and that's the thing I was getting, with that guy, the one who called me Pogue. I said a couple of things. One, because there was somebody else who chimed in, about how, not needing logistics. It's like, you don't fight naked with your bare hands. And you don't get there, as Matt was saying. You don't travel. You don't walk from here to to wherever, naked. All of that stuff has to come from somewhere. So anyway, but I just said to him at some point, I said, I'm sorry that you're bitter about your service, but that has nothing to do with me. But something I was thinking about earlier, when we were talking about you, because you said it didn't matter what conflict. I have, of course, again, I got out in '93, so I'm a Desert Storm person. You guys are newer. I watched a presentation by an Army veteran a while back who was Vietnam era. Matt, are you still there? We lost him again.
Yeah.
He was Vietnam era, and again, same thing. He talked about with all the stuff that he saw, and this man is an unbelievably talented artist, but he came back, and he said for years he didn't think he was going to get anything done ever again. And we're talking, 60 some years ago now. So, I mean, it really doesn't matter. The gender doesn't matter. The job doesn't matter. The branch or the time period. There are some things that are just universal.
Yeah, I mean, for myself, one of the most eye-opening things really was I went to the local vet center before I went to the VA. So this was 2005 when, like I was really trying to figure out how to get help, trying to figure out what I was going with, what I was dealing with. And they had a Tuesday morning multi-generational group. And I talked to guys that were in World War II. I talked to guys that were in Korea, Vietnam. And it was really eye-opening to hear the same issues and the
Okay, hang on.
Yeah.
Matt says he says he can't hear anything. It says 2 of 3 in the call. Yeah, I need to try to add him back if I can.
Okay.
Let me see. He dropped off. All right.
Back on.
Oh, well, how about that? Okay, so we were talking about, we were just saying that, because Paul had said earlier that, it didn't, what conflict didn't matter. And I was telling the story of an Army infantry gentleman I met from Vietnam era that, and I guess I only bring him up because I actually have a recording of his conversation. But I've met them from all at the dog park. I meet a lot of people at the dog park, but from all these different things who experience the same thing. So Paul was going into just talking about how that it doesn't matter gender, job, service, or time frame. None of those things matter. In the end,
No.
there are many things that are just universal. So go ahead, Paul, and keep.
Yeah, no, it's just, I mean, the simple fact that, like we all had a job to do, and regardless of what branch or what job that was, our experiences affected us all in very similar ways. Some more extreme than others, but it's very reassuring to know that, despite whatever conflict you were in or what branch you were in or what your job was, that you still experience the same transitional issues coming
Right.
back to society.
Right.
And that's where you had said earlier, we were in the military together, and we did everything together all the time together, and
No
then
man
you
left
get out and it's like, well, I'm on my own, I'm just going to do it
Yeah.
all by myself, and I'm just going to do everything by myself, because that's how
Part
how
of it
it
is,
is.
Many of us, probably most of us, I don't know, marry spouses or get in relationships with non-hero, significant others who they might want to, but they can't, they'll never fully grasp, and so, and I was, the Marine I interviewed, this, just not the most recently, his wife came in, we talked for 2 hours, and his wife came in about halfway through, and he introduced her, and I said, thank you. I said, because being a spouse is, whether, and it's one of the most difficult jobs when your significant other is active, because again, they can be places, but it's also really challenging once they get out, because, and it doesn't matter, like in JB's case, he was married before he went in, same woman, they're still together, their kids, everything else. So she has seen it all, and yet there are things that, that she just, anyway. So I said to Lauren's wife, she kind of sloughed it off, and I said, the challenge once you're out is you're seeing someone you love, someone you care deeply about, in pain, and you don't know how to help them. You don't know what to do for them. And, and another thing that came up in Rick's conversation, he said, with talking about going back to the VA meds, he mentioned the idea that, he was so heavily medicated that it was affecting, his life in the bedroom. And now his wife is saying, because he's 29, he has ED, he says, my wife is saying, you don't love me, or you're cheating on me, or whatever. So he goes off the meds. Then he's having this, these homicidal rages and such, and, short of being committed and such. So then he has to, he can have sex, but he he's never is a danger to himself and everyone else. And then so he goes back on the meds, and it's just this vicious cycle. And so
been there, done that.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Been there, done that.
Yeah, and really, I mean, like, I probably don't give my wife enough credit, because like she's in tune at this point to where, I have more difficult times at different parts of the year. I was in country in the beginning of March. I lost a lot of good friends at the end of March. So March is a very tough month. And sometimes I don't pay attention to that, but my demeanor and my behaviors will be different. And, it's now we've been married for almost 6 years. We've been together for 8, almost 9. And so I really kind of take for granted sometimes that, she may not fully understand, but she gets that, at certain times of year, I'm going to have a harder time dealing with things. And
yeah. Well, and this is the thing too, and this is the thing I've been discovering recently, is that, they've just, for years, I mean, we're talking a couple decades, I have not slept properly. And I mean, we're talking severe sleep, deprivation. But I just pushed through, and because I didn't have a choice. I had things that had to be done, and I just pushed through. And then that's, you spoke to the not noticing things. We tend to do that. It's like we compartmentalize, and we just keep going, and we don't take time to reflect. We don't tie these things together. And I've said many times, I don't call a spade until it happens to someone else. If it happens to me, it's not a problem. It's not, I compartmentalize it. It goes in this other room in my house of cards, and it just stays there. But then when somebody else has something, I will just get up in arms, and I'm all about fixing it for them. And it's like, wait a minute, lady. In fact, Matt knows I just did this crazy, insane trip to Texas and back, and I had forgotten about this. So I get up at 4 a.m. I left Orlando at like 3:30 in the afternoon, drove straight through to Texas, was pretty much awake the whole time there, and then came back again. So this was like Wednesday through Friday, or I don't know, whatever. Anyway, I had something happen, pretty significant and violent and just traumatic sometime just maybe a week or two prior to that, a couple weeks prior to that. Once again, I just compartmentalized it and moved on. And then all of a sudden, something kind of like with Josh and the pole, the snag of the pole, something triggered it, and I was in meltdown mode. I mean, Matt was on the phone with me. I'm driving. I'm almost back to Orlando, but I'm driving, and I'm crying, and just, and I didn't even tell him everything that happened. It was just knowing that you have someone that you can reach out to, and that's, again, we don't call it a problem until it belongs to somebody else. So we push through, we power through until we can't. The other thing with him. Okay. So before I go any further, so you're going to make me a promise right now that when we get done, or as soon as you see your wife next, you will give her a hug and tell her thank you, and how much you appreciate and value her, because we need those. We need those. So.
Absolutely.
What was I going to say? But that was with Lauren, and this was the thing too. For him, it wasn't so much what happened to him while he was in the military. After he got out, he went into medical, first responder, another type of hero community. And it was the buildup of the stress from that. And again, he didn't realize until, all of a sudden something small just set him the fuck off. And when he went in and started talking to somebody about it, then they started piecing it together and realizing that it was just, the continual stress of seeing, people, in danger and harmed and all those things. It just, it stacks up. We don't realize it. I mentioned episode 8 earlier, and it's entitled When Heroes Experience Pain. And one of the places I cracked up was a veteran I'd met at the dog park, and we were talking, and he was saying, his analogy was, we've been carrying the water bucket for so long, we just want someone else, we just want to hand it off. And when I was repeating that story in the recording, I started choking up, because it was, again, I had just come off of just one of these bad dark places. And like I said, for me, it's mostly a matter of my fear that I can't make this happen. That I can't help the people, that I can't save the people. And to me, there is no greater hell on earth than for me to not be able to reach and help and save these people that are hurting, because I've been there. I know that pain, and I just want, so I'm putting Matt to sleep over here.
No, you're not. You're definitely not.
All right, guys, we've been at this for an hour and a half. Do you have anything else you want to toss in there?
Well, back on it, back to the fishing or not fishing aspect. I think that being in an environment that is warming and welcoming, and for me, that is anything on the water, whether it's out on a boat fishing, or getting ready to go on a dive trip, or even when I just got my scoop. Last year got my scuba qualification, and I tell you what, being underneath, has helped me tremendously with anxiety, because you can't panic while you're underwater. It's just, so for me, being out on the water, whether it's with a fishing pole in my hand, or just going for a ride with somebody, or whatever the case is, I think that there's a lot to offer, and a lot to be said for that type of non-judgmental and welcoming environment.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, for different people, it's different things. Some people want to go hunting. Some people want to do, things that are completely non-death related. It doesn't really matter what it is. And again, that's why I said it's so important to me to get all of these business and all of these organizations together in one place, because, I want whatever it is that is your happy place, whatever it is that helps you, I want you to be able to find it. Find the people, find the activities, find all of those things, and so that's, it doesn't have to be fishing. There's woodworking, painting. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. Underwater basket weaving, as they say, it doesn't matter wherever your happy place is. For me, it's the water too. It's the ocean more than anything. I mean, being outdoors definitely, but the ocean. Saturday, my business partner, he lives in Georgia, and he's here in Florida for a short bit. Speaking of the devil, he just texted me, he and my son and I went and spent all day Saturday at the beach. Now, luckily, we had this big old 10-foot square tent and such, so that we could stay out there. But I worked pretty much the whole day. I took advantage of having him in the same space, and we we're mapping out a bunch of different things. But just the fact that I could have done the same work here and been through half a bottle of vodka, but there it was just it was just the working was not working, because that was my thing. And it's like you close your eyes and just everything goes away, and I was completely re-energized. And again, it was a combination of vacation and work at the same time. It was just awesome. But anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, I will say I definitely want to get together with Matt at some point to discuss some custom rods, because I could never have enough.
Clearly,
but yeah. To emulate what he was saying, especially in open water fishing, as opposed to hard water, which is ice fishing. You really your focus just goes to that next cast. So you're not stressed about all the outside influences in your life and your own mental roadblocks and detours. It's just you focus on that next cast and putting that lure where you want it, and just enjoying being outside, being on the water. And that's even from shore. Like not everybody has access to a boat. if you're able to get out on shore and you enjoy fishing, as a stress relief, you just clear your mind and you just focus on that next cast.
Okay, so if you want to catch up to Matt, he is on Instagram with Flying Fish Hooks. His website is flyingfishhooks.com, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Or just hit me here, or yeah, exactly. If you write it down real quick, well, I'm not going to put the number out for everybody, but the number's on my website, and or you can hit me up here on Skype. It's all good. Or send me a private message, and I'll give you my cell phone number.
Right. And in the app, you're UFFDA, right?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. So one of you guys that's more comms capable than I am, give me that in military speak. Uniform, Fox.
Uniform, Foxtrot, Delta, Alpha.
Nice, thank you. I could do it, but we might be here another hour. Actually, those are pretty easy ones. It's some of the others that I get kind of hung up on. Okay, and so he's in the app. He's on. He's on Instagram, and he has a website. Paul, on Instagram, you're fishing.
Fishing for therapy.
Okay, and it's the number 4. Right.
The number 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now you're not in the app yet, but I trust that you will be soon.
I am. I want to say that I'm in the app under PF Roy Jr.
You are. Did I verify you? Have you been? I'll check on that. But yeah, I do remember that. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so say again, because I talked right over. Thank you.
So
I love you so much. Thank you.
It's my first initial, middle initial, last name, and junior. So it's Papa Foxtrot, Romeo Oscar Yankee, Juliet Romeo.
You both passed. Yay. You didn't know there was going to be a quiz here, did you? So, all right, guys.
Well, come on, you're killing me.
Say again. Matt, what'd you say?
No, I said you're killing me, but I said you guys are killing me, but all right, we're good.
Anyway, thank you so very, very much. Again, I will repeat this time and again. Absolutely the best part of my job. I love you guys so much. If you're so inclined, I could really use some sort of testimonial, I'm going to start putting them up on the site. If you do decide you're going to start a business or something, and you have we're putting all of that on the site. Anything that you want to support, we're there to support you for it. So, I'm here, and I don't know if you have my number now, but I'll make sure you have it. And again, I'm here. Anything you need. All right.
Likewise, very much appreciated. And any vets that are in my area up in New England that want to go out, I'll happily take anybody out anytime. I got an 18.5-foot boat, and I got extra rods and reels and stuff, so no problem.
That you just brought one last thing. So that's the other really big thing I need from you guys is that once this goes live, and I'm not sure exactly when that'll be, is just to promote it whatever way you can, because that's all the great content in the world is useless if we don't get it into the hands of the people who need it. So, but anyway, again, thank you guys. I love you very much, and I'll chat with you again soon.
It's been great. Thank you.
All right, sounds good. Good, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for spending this time with us. If you enjoyed the content we shared with you, please subscribe, review, and share this show with your friends. Veramore, the dating app, and Hero Harbor, the social connection tool for heroes, are both in the app stores. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as Veramore, Veramore_app, or Hero Harbor.